What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports MLB morning show. Today, it's going to be some MLB, and I am here reviewing lineups with Hoop. But before we do that, let's talk about the weekend, because it was a pretty big weekend. Obviously, for Hoop, he won a bunch of money, but hey, we had a lot going on this weekend. So let's talk about that, kind of have a little recap. NBA playoffs kicked off. That was absolutely awesome. Had fun watching some of those games. Some of them weren't so great, but overall, good kickoff to the playoffs for me, DFS-wise, and just being a sports fan. USFL, not so good. That was an absolute disaster. Baseball was still going on. MMA, not sure how that went for you, Hoop. Watched a little bit of the fights, but after a kind of a really good card, you kind of get a dud card. So that's kind of just how it goes in the UFC. But overall, Hoop, how was your weekend and how were the sports?
Yeah, had a busy weekend. Son had a baseball tournament on Saturday, and it was fucking freezing here. So it was all day long, freeze my ass off on Saturday, but they did win the championship. So they made it all worth it. So didn't really get in the UFC streets, which is fine. The card looked absolutely abysmal. I know, Title had some really good content out there, and I know he's really close to shipping. Talked to him yesterday, so the UFC content continues to be top notch, and in my opinion, the best in the industry. The USFL, I watched a little bit of it. It looked like an absolute disaster. It was on yesterday for a little bit, and anytime you're kicking off a sports league and there's literally like 10 people in the stands, that is not a very good sign. I looked like there's more people on Saturday, but Easter Sunday yesterday, there was no one there. It just looks like really bad football, a lot of running. Like, I don't know what it was, but there was a lot of rushing plays. The holes these guys are running through, I swear Big T could hit these holes with ease and take it to the house. I mean, they are just like massive gaps. These NFL running backs, I'm assuming, would just take it to the house immediately. You could just tell it was a really low level football product, and there was some issues. I didn't get the full detail. Obviously you can talk about a little bit more, but there was issues with like what they opened up everyone's lineup right as soon as it locked. Is that what happened?
Yeah, so I'll give you the full breakdown. It was kind of a disaster. I'm a little disappointed. So number one, the first issue was, Hoop, I don't even know this. Friday, the main contest sold out, right? Like the big main 100K to first. Did you know that, Hoop?
Sorry, my earbuds cut out. That it sold out, you said?
Yeah, so that thing sold out on Friday, 26 hours before. So you'd assume, wow, this is getting great traction. No, that's not what happened. The DK apparently gave out tickets to 26,000 people, and no one knows who got these tickets as well. Like, it's just like a bunch of fish, I guess. No one knows. It's like, if you ask around, hey, did you get a ticket to this? Like, no one knows who got the ticket. So that was like the weird thing that filled. Then lock happens, and at lock, all the ownership gets released, right? And everyone knows who people are on, you know what I mean? And if you got the CSV gets posted on Twitter, I didn't even know about it until I saw it on Twitter, and then people posted it. Also another huge issue with the league in general, if you're going to run a league like this, which I'm trying to remember, I think when the XFL did this and before COVID happened, the XFL felt like that traction was working out really well. Well, practice reports and who's actually on the team, it's a disaster reporting. You don't really I think one guy was 40% owned or so, and he's on the practice squad. He's not even on the team. So reporting is just so bad where if you want this to grow, we're probably the first people to start with, right? I think we're the guys to maybe keep around, and it's just tough to play that. Now, is there money to probably be won in this? Yeah, probably, just natural game theory, right? If people are on the highest owned stuff, you probably don't want to play it on a league that we don't know as much stuff on. But overall, it was not the greatest start to the weekend. The good news is they are refunding everyone for what happened. I think and then there was also yesterday, there was a postponement of a game. Here's the other dumb thing, Hoop. If you're in a league, right, that you're starting for the first time and they're doing a bubble environment, they're all playing in Alabama, they're all playing in Birmingham. Why wouldn't you put it in a dome? What are we doing?
Controlled environment. Yeah. So why did it get postponed? Because of weather?
Yeah, because of weather. It was scattered showers all day. So you figured one of the games would probably be in trouble. And I think the first game got delayed for a little bit. I couldn't remember because it was Easter. So I was in the morning. I know I was at church, and then I was watching NBA playoffs right instead. And I saw the game kept getting pushed back. So I assumed it was it just keeps raining, and it was such a disaster. But not the greatest kickoff for it. I'm curious to see what DK does for like this coming up week, because there was a lot of overlay in the other contests. Like I did like put more money in because I saw like a double up that was a single entry one, 900 people, only 560 were in it. So like there was definitely overlay, and that's why like that one contest filling with all those tickets was like the weirdest thing. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how it goes, but I don't think it's going to be like a big 100K GBP again.
Yeah. Safe to say, just from the sounds of it, prize pools are going down. And then once prize pools start heading down, they continue to go down, and it's not going to be good. And for these sites that charge all this extra money for USFL content, they might be having to issue some refunds. So head on over to Run Pure. You don't have to worry about that. All sports, all content, one price. You don't have to worry about when a new sport fizzles out like that.
Yeah, and here's another thing too, Hoop. Like this, like with this sport going on, like not the greatest timing of this sport, right? Like there's just so much like going on right now. Like it's just tough to like you're competing against the NBA playoffs, soon the NHL playoffs. Not that that's a huge deal, but MLB start to the season. I think like the sweet spot is when XFL is going to start next year. XFL is going to start February, like kind of right after. Yeah. I think that's either the sweet spot, or if you start in like a June or July, and it's kind of one of those things like maybe like the guys that didn't make the draft are kind of playing and like they're working for a job to get on like the preseason team and then like make their way up. I think that's like probably the better way to have it happen, because like everyone wants to watch the NBA playoffs over that. I mean, I'm sure at least that's the case. I don't know what viewership is. I'd be curious to see what the views were this weekend, but overall, we got all the sports for you, so we're not going to charge you extra if the USFL goes down. Who knows though? It could come back and be better, but we'll have to see. Not the greatest kickoff to that. What do you think of NBA playoffs? I don't know how many games you got to catch this weekend. The Celtics and Nets was definitely a fun one, definitely the best game to watch, but what was your overall takeaways so far?
Yeah, I got to see some of the games. I mean, nothing all that surprising. I mean, when we were on here last week, I said I thought the Timberwolves had a chance in that series. They got the job done on Saturday against the Grizzlies. We said the Mavericks would have issues, obviously, without Luka. Jazz took game one. I'm assuming they kind of just roll through that series. 76ers, very impressive. I thought the Raptors could put up more of a fight. Now they're going to be without Barnes and Gary Trent Jr., it sounds like. So it could be a rough stretch for them. Warriors beat the Nuggets. Like we talked about, it's going to be very hard to bet on the Nuggets against the Warriors with only Jokic. I mean, it's just, did Murray play? I'm sorry, I didn't really see that game.
Murray will not, the only chance Murray has of playing, and this is why I don't think he does, he played the Warriors. That's when he hurt his ACL last, and it was in Golden State. There's no chance he's showing up in a Golden State game. Maybe he somehow laces them up for like a game 3 in Denver. But the only issue is like, if they're down 2-0 and like, maybe like they already feel like they can't win, like Murray, like Big T was saying how like they were trying to get Murray to just go out there during the regular season for like 8 minutes, right? Just to kind of like get his feet wet. And he still didn't want to do that. So I just don't think he's coming back this year. I think it's just simple.
Especially if they lose that next game, it's certainly going to be probably done for him and done for the team. I thought the Hawks would put up a better fight against the Heat. I mean, the Heat they're just such a solid team all around defensively, but the Hawks with the play-in, I think they bounce back and play better in game 2. I think that's a more competitive game, but either way, it's going to be tough, for the Hawks, I think, in the series. I'm sticking with my Nets. I doubled down. I mean, I know you're on the Celtics side of this, but
no, I'm on the Nets side. I'm on the Nets
side.
Are
you?
Even though, like, here's the thing. So I could change. Like, if you told me I think Robert Williams is that big of a difference for their defense that, like, if Robert Williams came back, depending what the series would be, I think I would jump on the Celtics. So I am with you. I agree on the Nets. I think the Nets are the team I'm guessing you doubled down and took, I think they're plus 180.
Plus 180. I saw, I put it, that was my biggest bet going into the playoffs was the Nets to win the series. Just doubling down. I mean, you got to get one on the road. If they can win this game 2, I think they're right back in the driver's seat. So, I mean, I'm sticking with my Nets. It's my biggest flag plant in the round 1. We'll see what happens. When do they play next? Is it looks like
they play Wednesday.
Jesus, the NBA just stretches this shit out so much. They're so smart by doing it, though. It's like it is so genius.
It's 3 games a day, Hoop. It's pretty good. It's 3
That's
games
perfect,
a day,
actually.
And then Saturday and Sunday are 4-game slates. They did a great job with it.
They really did. It just takes forever, but that is really good scheduling. I will say. Yeah, the Bucks beat the Bulls. We kind of predicted that. I mean, Budenholzer is a fucking moron. I mean, just dumb. Like, you can't even. When did he come out? Like with a minute 30 to go or something? I just saw like the highlights.
Yes, he came out with like a minute 20 left here. I tweeted it out because it was a really dumb quote. They asked him why, Hoop, and he actually gave a response. Here it was. We were up 3 with a free throw. Just keep him in. Had both timeouts. They scored. We probably call a timeout. Just make sure he's there to finish the play, finish an offensive possession. Bobby had some good defensive possessions. So just taking away the option of going at him and trying to avoid his 6 to stay in the game. So he basically said, Bobby Portis played good defensive possessions and he wanted to keep him out on defense so guys didn't attack Giannis. Can you imagine attacking Giannis? No one's going to go and attack him. Like no. They also need a 3-pointer because they're down. So instead, you're going to have a Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis combination to cover the 3-point line, and you're worried about being attacked down low. And he also said that Bobby was playing good defense, so he wanted to reward him. That's not how it works. Just because you have a good defensive possession, you bring in your best player. It's Giannis. It's absolutely absurd.
The guy's a moron. I mean, they're obviously super fortunate that they won it last year because, I mean, he's the only thing holding them back. I mean, just so dumb. I mean, and we know that's the case. He's just one of these fake smart coaches. He's lucky to have the roster that he has. Absolute disaster. Suns, beat up the Pelicans. I mean, that's going to be 4 or 5 games for sure. Chris Paul, I did see some of that look great out there. So, I mean, it's great opening round. The NBA product is, absolutely phenomenal, and solid 3-game slate tonight, like you said. So, for DFS purposes, we'll have all the content you need to make winning lineups tonight. We'll have our MLB team. I'm a little bit more on the MLB side of things now. We'll have our full MLB team working. There's a solid slate tonight. Some weather to look out for, which we'll touch on it when we kind of get into talking about it a little bit. But it's a fun time. I mean, NBA playoffs, MLB full swing. I mean, you can't beat it right now.
Yep. I mean, you got NASCAR last night. I mean, you have it all. There's so much going on over here at Run Pure Sports. Richie Smalls is in the chat. He's talking. He said he had a huge weekend, basketball and baseball, smash weekend. So awesome to see that. Overall, it was a fun weekend, and I'm excited to dive in to talk more about this. But hey, if you guys could subscribe to the video, it helps us out a ton. We got tons of content going for you today. We have an MLB show, 4:45. It'll be Hoop. It'll be Title, I believe, DC. And then we got the NBA Up the Lock show. I believe it's Monday. So you get Kay Fallick and then JSU and Big T. They'll be hopping on. That'll be on the premium side. That'll be starting at 6:30. So don't miss out on that. Hoop, let's talk about your lineup, though. Maybe Simon can put this up now. I don't know if he had it up before, but Hoop won $100K this past weekend on one of his teams. Now, on this team, he also, I think, had it in other contests and did pretty well. Overall, I think he won like $120K or something like that, Hoop. Well, great weekend for you. You did not do it the traditional way, no 5-man stack. You had a nice 4-3-1. Talk about this winning lineup here and, kind of your overall breakdown. And I believe this was in the 5-5-5, if that's correct.
Yeah, this was on DK, I think, was 7-7-7. So the 700. I put 10 teams in this basically. And
it was like a 500-man field, would you say, Hoop? Correct?
Yeah. I think there's 500 people in it. 100K to first, and this one ended up winning. I remember, I hand built these teams in MLB. A lot of times I'll hand build. I remember, I want to play at least one Angel stack after going through everything. I had a feeling they'd be relatively low owned, and they actually were for having the big names like Trout and Ohtani under 20%. Like you say, oh well, 20%. That's a big number, but when you get those guys under 20, I think that's kind of a bargain. I mean, those guys alone can break the slate. And obviously Ohtani had the 2 home runs, and you would have needed him on the slate to ship. It was relatively low scoring, I think, on the hitting side. There weren't many offenses that went off, and you see that a lot early on in the season. So I knew I wanted at least an Angels team after going through everything. I know our boy Gary in the playbook was very high in the Angels, playbook's the kind of positional breakdown with some notes, and a lot of Angels were ranked highly, and he was high on them. I know AP was high on them. AP had a team that was kind of chasing me as well. So a lot of people at Run Pure Sports high in the Angels this night, and they were the key. So you got Ohtani, who hits the 2 home runs. Jared Walsh was only 6% in this contest, batting third. And he had a home run, 23 fantasy points, obviously a big key here. Mike Trout, only 18% owned, and he's not the one that broke the slate or anything. But if you're stacking the Angels and you get Trout under 20%, like, to me, that's an absolute steal in Texas against a shitty pitcher. Great spot. He got 14 fantasy points, and then I had this Brandon Marsh and Mangone. The story with Brandon Marsh. And Brandon, this is actually a funny story. We got time, and this is what the morning show is all about. So last year, it was when Miguel Cabrera was going for his 500th home run, and I was taking my son, the family. We went down to a couple of games, and it was an afternoon game, and it was like 90 degrees, and Cabrera and the Tiger, I believe it was a pretty high scoring game, but Cabrera didn't get the home run that day. And we were sitting there watching the game, and my son, he would have been 7 at the time, just starting to get into baseball. He's playing baseball, loving it. So he's watching this game, and Brandon Marsh, he's paying close attention to the entire game. And Brandon Marsh had like a career game. I think he went like 4. It was a high scoring game, so he went like 4 for 5. He had like a home run, a triple. I mean, this guy was just going off. I think the Angels scored maybe like 10 or 11 runs in this game. And Marsh was the whole reason why the Angels scored all these runs. So like, he looks at me and he knows Mike Trout, he knows Ohtani, he's seen the YouTube videos, we watch him on TV. And like, he looks at me like at the end of the game, he goes, Dad, he goes, Brandon Marsh is really good. He goes, I think Brandon Marsh is my new favorite player. So now if I stack the Angels, I absolutely have to play Brandon Marsh. Come to find out, Brandon Marsh, not a good game on Friday night, two RBIs. But Mangone, I know you remember that story because we were dying. I think it was the next day on the show we had talked about Brandon Marsh and how he's his favorite player. I don't even know if he remembers Brandon Marsh now. It's just very ironic that he was in this lineup.
Oh yeah, he was all about Brandon Marsh. He said it. I remember that game. That was a wild game. And the worst part is, I told you, I said, if you're going to this game, you need to stack it up. You didn't even stack it. Like, but hey, it's coming back to be profitable for you. I think you've definitely done well with Brandon Marsh and the Angels. So hey, he was part of that lineup.
So I do remember when I went through and built this lineup. The reason I didn't go with the 5-man stack here is because fucking Anthony Rendon. I was like, dude, I can't play Rendon. The dude just tilts me. He sucks. I'd stacked the Angels, like, I believe maybe on Thursday, this was Friday, maybe on Thursday or Wednesday. And we talked about it, I believe, on the Swing for the Fences show, where he was not interested. There's a lot of like quotes with him saying basically he's just playing baseball to get the paycheck. So when I built this team, I'm like, I'm not putting Rendon in there. Like, there's no chance. Rendon would have beat Turner. I believe they're a similar price, but it didn't end up really mattering. I mean, Turner only got 6 fantasy points. So coming back to, how I built this team, I knew I wanted some Dodgers. To me, were the clear team on Friday night that you wanted exposure to. They, obviously didn't end up having a big night. But I got some of these guys in there, and shortstop was really weak. If I recall, Friday night, there was not many options. There was not like a punt guy. I think the Rockies guy, one of these other teams that I had the Rockies guy. I think he was 2K. He did hit a home run, but I was like, man, if I can pay up for Turner in some of these lineups, I'm going Trey Turner. That is, I'm going to. He got 18, and that was solid at the position. And then another key would have been Gavin Lux. Batting, so he was batting 9th, still 12%, which is actually pretty high for a guy batting 9th. But I think a lot of people were trying to get in Dodgers guys. And then at catcher, kind of just looked to punt it off with Zach Collins, who I actually like. I played a lot of him yesterday. Continues just to hit doubles and RBIs and stuff. So he got 10 fantasy points, which was probably good enough at catcher. Catcher is a pretty weak position. My mindset all week last week when determining pitchers were just kind of play who fits type thing, just because we've seen just, guys go 4 innings or 3 innings. So I talked about on the show, I'm kind of building my teams and seeing what I have left at pitcher. And this just worked out perfect because this Gore guy was only 5K, a big time prospect. Now he only got 11 fantasy points, but at 5K, 11 fantasy points, that's good enough. Like, you kind of take that and move on. And then Rodon had a huge game, obviously, with 32 fantasy points. He's going to have, it appears to have a monster season, especially, playing in that ballpark in San Francisco. Now they're on the road here in Cleveland, but the weather was very cold, and he crushed. Another pitcher on the slate that was pretty highly owned, Dylan Cease, who got 28 fantasy points. So I was kind of surprised I was able to still win this with not having the Rodon and Cease combo, which netted 60 fantasy points essentially. So Rodon and Gore got the job done. Now it does kind of make sense when you think about it, because you needed Ohtani
you basically needed Ohtani on the slate, who was expensive at 5.7, and Jared Walsh at 5K. So at that point, it's really hard to double pay up at pitcher. So I guess when you think about it, it does make sense where you kind of needed this cheap pitcher to get the job done. Had some other teams up here that had a chance. I had a Toronto stack.
So I'm looking at the teams. When you mentioned that, I said, let me see if I can find the Cease and Rodon combos just to look at this. There was one before you. It was, let me find it again. Or maybe it was yours. Let's see. Yeah, you had two Cease and Rodon.
Sixth place.
Yeah, you had two Cease and Rodons in 6th and 10th. So your 6th place one, that one went a Toronto stack with Coors, so 3-man. So it was a 5-3. And then the other one is a Toronto. Yeah, Toronto, LA. See, it's like kind of a mix. Oh, yeah, it's a 5-2-1 where it's 5 LA and then Toronto. I think your key on this slate hoop was, and I remember the slate like pretty well because I did have a lot of Angels and Dodgers later on too.
Yeah.
And on that slate, I specifically remember early on, I was like, man, I have like some really good backloaded teams like that had like just 5-man like stacks that had like maybe 3 Angels. So like it was one of those teams where if you were sitting on Dodgers and you had Angels, like you felt like you were in a pretty good spot. And that's probably kind of where your teams were at because a lot of teams underperformed on that night. And if you did the double spend up at pitcher, you couldn't grab, I think, like the combination of those really big Angels bats with the really big Dodgers bats. I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, so it obviously all worked out. I had a few bowls, but like I said, I didn't end up sweating it. Like sometimes you stay up and sweat it out. Sometimes you just hit the sheets, and I hit the sheets because, like I said, my son had a baseball tournament early in the morning, and I knew this was going until probably like 1 a.m. Hit the sheets, fell asleep. Woke up to the nice ship. It's always a good feeling. You don't have the stress and anxiety that goes along with sweating it out. But looking at the stand, I mean, I won by 10. So, it was not like one of these sweats where it was within half a point or a point. I mean, it was a 10-point win. It looked like Lux did something later in that game that probably propelled me up to first. I don't think the guy in second had Lux. It's not loading up here. No, yeah, he didn't have Lux. So yeah, Lux, I believe, got like a triple or something at the end of the game that probably put me in first and stayed there for the remainder of the evening. It's a good feeling, get this early ship in MLB. The product at Rumpier has been on point. Like I said, I knew I liked the Angels, but after reading the playbook, Gary was super high on him Friday night, and a lot of people in the Discord, coordinators and members, were talking about the Angels. So that kind of propelled me to make sure I got one Angel stack in there, and they're the key to the night. And over on FanDuel, I was live too, so I had some teams over there that were also in the top 10, and I'm sweating that out. I needed Max Muncy. I know that for sure because the team was done and all it had left was Max Muncy. I needed like 20 or 25 from Max Muncy. He gets off to a hot start. I think it put me into like 4th place. And actually, come to find out, it was a member at Run Pure that ended up winning the 100K over there on FanDuel. So congratulations to him. So I knew I had a chance on both sites to ship, but falling short is not a good feeling. But when it's to another RPS member, it hurts a little less. So it was a solid night all around for the crew at Run Pure.
Yep, definitely was a great night. If you guys, haven't signed up at Run Pure Sports, head on over there now. Sign up. Check out the core plays. We got the playbook. We got them for all the sports. We got showdown stuff. I mean, with NBA coming around the corner, with the showdown stuff, it's going to be big. We're going to have premium shows for that too. Once we kind of dive in and get to like where it's like only a couple games left, or every day. But right now, NBA is still grinding along, still doing pretty well. So be sure to check out all the content that we got over here. Also want to mention some of the other stuff at Run Pure going on right now. We do not have a promo going on, right, Hoop? Is that correct?
We have the USFL. I mean, after what happened with USFL, I mean, I'm hesitant to promote the promo, but it is still active. If you want to give Run Pure a chance, USFL 35 is the promo code, gets you 35% off.
35 or 36? I can't remember which one.
Yeah, we were going back and forth on that. Let me verify that.
Let's make sure it's I just want to make sure it's.
So the idea was like, it's 36. Sorry, USFL 36. So we were going back and forth. 35 is the nice round number, but 36 is the number of years it's been since USFL first launch, and it might be another 36 after the disaster this weekend. USFL 36 gets you 36% off your first payment at Run Pure Sports on a monthly or weekly package. Can't include Saber though. Anything without Saber sim.
Cool. Yeah, definitely get in on all of that. Hoop, another thing I want to mention with your lineup, you had Zach Collins on there, and you talked about him a little bit, but that was just like a strategy of punting catcher, which is always like a good route to do. Punting positions that are not great for your lineups, like Gavin Lux. I'm not saying that you obviously like the Dodgers, but like I'm sure that helped make things work too. I feel like you're very good at that, coming up with strategies, how to punt positions. Can you talk a little bit of brief strategy about that? And then we'll also touch on some chat strategy questions. I see a couple already, but if you have any, just fire away in the chat with those.
Yeah, definitely fire away some questions. Some good comments in here, actually. When we were talking about the Miggy home run strat,
yes, I know you're talking about
Clint said, I remember that guy on the show that was betting Miggy's to hit the 500th home run for a week. It was more than a week. It was like 2 weeks straight. That guy is G Risen. G Risen will be back doing some stuff with us. G Risen, every single show talked about betting Miggy to hit the home run. I think he did it for like it was like 2 or 3 weeks straight. And then the other show what were we doing? We were talking about our favorite like random players, like just random MLB players, and we were throwing guys out there. It's just random dudes, like, oh yeah, Brandon Marsh is my favorite player, whatever, just random dudes. And G Risen pops in and goes, oh, Mike Trout's my favorite. Gotta love G Risen. Good dude. He'll be back doing some MLB stuff. But in terms of like punting off some of these positions, I mean, we talked about it, even in stacks, like people are uncomfortable going to the bottom of the lineup to play some of these, not terrible hitters, but less good hitters than the guys at the top of the lineup, I guess is the best way to put it. But I mean, sometimes you have to do it to make it work. Like, do I want Zach Collins at catcher, or do I want Mitch Garver? Obviously I want Mitch Garver, but salary cap prevents that from happening. So you have to be comfortable playing some cheaper guys, even in stacks. So, I had this mini stack with Gavin Lux in there. It's like, okay, do I want Gavin Lux here, or do I want Max Muncy? Obviously I'd rather play Max Muncy, but it didn't work. And I'm just going to play Gavin Lux, who's batting ninth at 2.9K. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it if you are stacking or not stacking. If a lot of times people will play the 5-man stack or whatnot and just play like 3 one-offs, and we've seen those shit before. So in terms of like roster construction, that's the beauty of baseball. There's so many different ways that you can go about making winning lineups. But I mean, the one thing that remains true is you got to get comfortable playing some cheaper guys that are in bad lineup spots and just kind of roll with it. Kind of like I said, though, like going through this, I know the Dodgers were popular, but I'm actually shocked that Lux was 12%. I'm willing to bet in some of the lower dollar stuff that his ownership had to be like really into the single digits. This was a $777 buy-in. These guys that are, maxing this out are much more comfortable playing some of the, bad lineup spot guys. Definitely willing to bet in some of the lower dollar stuff. Like Lux was probably like 5 or 6% owned. I don't know if anyone in the chat could pull that up and verify on Friday night, but I'm definitely, there's no way he's 12% across the industry. Marsh, Marsh, might be my son's favorite MLB player, but he's not the best outfielder. He's not the best, hitter in baseball. He's got to play some of those guys. He didn't get the job done, only 2, but that's another nice thing about baseball. It's like, man, you don't need every single spot to like smash for you. If you're playing NBA playoffs right now, like you need, all your guys most likely to go off. In baseball, it's a little bit different. You can take a 2. I got a 2 from March. I got a 6 from, Justin Turner. You can take those and still ship even in the lower dollar stuff. I mean, you just got to be on the right guys, the guys that hit the 2 home runs. Ohtani hit 2 home runs. He's 17% owned. You needed him. Marsh, 23 fantasy points, 6% owned. You probably needed him to ship, but you can take on some more risk in baseball because you don't need every single guy in your lineup to go off, which is the beauty of the sport for DFS purposes.
Yeah, Hoop, I can real quick show a segue of that because I had a team last night. Great team in NBA. I'll just do it real quick and then we'll kind of dive in and talk about some other stuff. We'll answer some chat questions, but here, I'll just pull it up now on my end and see if I can find it. I played obviously a bunch of different stuff this weekend, so let's see if I can grab it up real quick.
Yeah.
That's the live stuff. I need the history. Let's see. So history, Where's the NBA team I had? It wasn't bad yesterday, but I had old Jay Crowder. You know Jay Crowder. I mean, he's not fun to roster sometimes, but this is the team. So I got 17th in the 5.55. Look at the Jay Crowder snowflake, just brutal. The old 5.75. You can't chip without that in NBA, right? Yeah. That's the thing. In MLB, you can do those things. You can go and get a win. And that's one thing I think you did a great job of with that team. Second base and catcher are great positions to punt. And sometimes when you just punt them off, and yes, your guys did well at that position, they just can win you a slate. And sometimes it just doesn't matter. That's why you're able to overcome a Brandon Marsh 3 on your team. So yeah, even my lowest owned guy had a snowflake, right? Still did okay, but if he does well, then I get to the top. So it's just one of those things that can be frustrating with NBA DFS at times. But hey, that's why the playoffs can be very profitable too. I considered the Jay Crowder 50% fade, and looking back, I wish I would have, just because Maxi Kleber today is a great example on the NBA slate. We were talking in the Discord chat with JSU. He's like, I hope this guy has a ton of ownership today, because he probably is. And these guys at 50% sometimes, they're definitely worth fading. One reason I didn't fade Jay over Maxi is Jay's actually a starter. Maxi's not. And Jay Crowder got into 3 foul trouble. So be it. But definitely, good points you brought up. You can easily do well in MLB. Also, some people in the chat were saying, man, the scores in the MLB contest up in your range that you're playing are a lot higher. You can lose a lot of money faster, for one. Oh, yeah. And then 2, you can apply this to a $12 single entry GPP, right? Where it's still a similar size, size pool. So I think definitely you can use that strategy in those contests as well. In the 150 max ones, yeah, it's going to be way different. There's way more entries in there where it makes it a little more difficult, and the scores are going to be higher. But that's kind of what you sign up for when you get in the contest. So before you kind of click enter, look at the contest and see if that's one that you want to play in. Here's a question from Clint. He says, can Hoop discuss if or how which DK or FanDuel is softer? For us who have, spouse and wife and kids, it's hard to play both sites. So Hoop, if you're trying to only play one site, do you have a preference of what you do? I know it's not the easiest question to answer, but what's your kind of overall thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really comes down to what you're trying to do. If you're trying to, enter things, if you don't have a ton of time to enter lineups and you want to, get a bunch of stuff in quickly, I definitely say FanDuel, because you are dealing with one pitcher. You can, if you're going to do stacks, you can do 4-4, you can't do 5-3. So really you're playing one pitcher and, potentially just stacking two teams. So it's a lot easier, a lot faster to make the teams on FanDuel. On DraftKings, there's more decisions to be made. You have 2 pitchers. You can do 5-3 stack. You can do 4-3-1 if you are stacking. I mean, you don't absolutely have to stack. A lot of different ways. It's takes more time and more thought process to make lineups on DraftKings. In terms of one side or the other being softer, I don't know. I think we're almost beyond that point in DFS now. I mean, you have to imagine whatever contest you're entering, you're going against the best of the best. I mean, the sharpest players are playing on both FanDuel and DraftKings. You're putting 150 teams in everything. I don't really think one site is softer or more difficult than the other. I mean, you just got to get in the flow, make teams properly. Make sure you're putting good thought and information into each lineup that you build, whether you're hand building or using an optimizer. But at this point in DFS, and I think you can attest to this as well, you just got to have the mindset you're going against the best of the best. The top players are in everything. They're in every contest. Building optimal type lineups for, based on their projections. I really wouldn't say one site is softer or more difficult.
Yeah. My key thing is understanding that I wouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people are using projections, whether they're hand building with them, they're using tools that are incorporating the projection. So I think the one thing that I definitely take away is I think for me, the highest owned stack of the day, typically it gets pretty high owned. And it depends on each slate. Every slate is different, but there's a lot of different things you can take account into it. So yeah, keep firing any questions that you guys have. We'll talk about, we can pull up on my end, we can pull up either the NBA or the MLB slate. Probably the MLB slate makes sense just to kind of talk a little strategy, maybe look and see if we can, give some first quick thoughts on what we think on this MLB slate. Someone asked what game I'm focusing on tonight for NBA. That's a good question. I'm trying to think? I know overall this NBA slate, just to kind of pull it up real quick.
Well, it's got to be like it's got to be Raptors heavy now, right? Just because of the news that Barnes and Trent are most likely going to be out.
Yeah, we don't have that starting lineup too. Yeah, the thing is OG is 5'8", so he'll be a guy that people plug in a lot because he's just role's going to be secure. Fred VanVleet is 7'5", which like that's a pretty good tag. You take Trent and Barnes out, and Barnes has been a ball handling guy. Pascal's at 9'2". The big key on this slate, we can talk a little NBA and then we can dive into MLB also. So we'll just like kind of give some quick takeaways. Even though there's like an Embiid and like a Jokic on this slate and other studs to pay for, I don't know what like the value, like the good value guys are. I guess like Kem Birch, if he starts at 3-2, or like even a Precious Achua, it just depends who they end up starting. I think that's the key. The big takeaway, and it's hard to give the answer now, but it's like, which Raptor is the one to play? Whichever one start, because we know that's how Nick Nurse shows his hand, right? Like, yes, Chris Boucher off the bench at 4-4 could maybe have like a nice little game. And like, if the game blew out or something, would Chris Boucher clean up in that fourth quarter? There's definitely a chance he would. But like, what if Wannabe randomly started at 3K or Malachi Flynn started? I don't know if he for sure would, but I do think there are routes where like, we think we know who the starter is, and then it just changes 30 minutes before the game. Would you agree, Hoop?
Yeah, the one spot that's been inconsistent for the Raptors all season is really their bigs or their center, because a lot of times they're willing to go small and play Siakam at center. Well, the matchup, I think it creates a unique situation where they're not going to let Siakam, stay on Embiid. So one of these guys is going to play a lot, whether it's Birch, Achua, Boucher. In the past, it's typically been the guy that starts is one that gets most of the runs. So starters with the Raptors, always very important. This is the first game of the slate. We'll definitely have that information at lock, but one of these guys, one of these bigs is going to play a lot. Now, the problem is it's a matchup with Embiid, which is not ideal at all. So, to me, I really, first glance, not diving super deep. I want to focus on, OG, even like VanVleet, Siakam. We need the starters over. It's the same story with the Raptors. It's been all season long. You want the starters for sure, but I don't know if it's like an ideal spot, but based on this slate, you probably have to play some of these cheap Raptors guys to make everything work.
Yep. And then like Dinwiddie, Brunson, those are two guys that'll probably get peppered in lineups. Donovan Mitchell's only 8'3", so if you happen to have money to spend up, Royce O'Neal's a 3'8" starter. I can see people going back to Maxey at 3'8" as well. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting slate. One other guy to mention, like, let's say, like, these are little things to look for, Hoop, but like, let's say like the Jazz, I think the Jazz are going to beat up the Mavs pretty good tonight, but a Whiteside is a guy that's just like, when you look at these like cheap 3K guys, and if you don't have value, which we kind of have value on the Raptors right now, but a lot of these playoff slates, we're not going to have value some days where you have to kind of create your own values. The best guys to take those shots on are the Whitesides that are elite fantasy producers that can get the job done in like 10 to 15 minutes if you need to, or if they just get 20 minutes somehow, like game blows out or just something weird happens, you just kind of fall into the absolute stone nut. So those are things that I personally look for when kind of building out my lineups. If I do need to create values like that, or I just try and make teams overall, like the team I made yesterday. I'll read off the guys again one more time. Lowry, Kevin Huerter, Jay Crowder, PJ Tucker, Valanciunas, Smart, Giannis, and Paul. What do all those guys have in common? One thing they all have in common, they're all starters and all going to play just a ton of minutes. Like there's just minutes there, which in the playoffs, that's very valuable. I don't have like one thing I wouldn't want to do today. Like I wouldn't want to play Maxi Kleber and let's say I'm trying to find another bench guy that like is viable. Like I don't think I'd want to do like a Maxi Kleber and an Austin Rivers and a like Matisse Thybulle to be able to jam everyone in. I think I did something kind of similar to that on one of the slates in order to jam Embiid and Jokic, and it really didn't work out well. Now, that wasn't exactly what I did, but I remember the team, I just had too many bench guys, and I was like, that's a mistake that I made, and I made sure on this team not to make that mistake. Are those some like strategy things you look at when you kind of play NBA playoffs?
Yeah, I think overall NBA playoffs is a different beast than, the regular season. And, in the regular season, a lot of times like the balanced build is not like the way to go because, those studs can just go off and dust you and end the slate. And you're not seeing, role type players have those big ceiling games in the playoffs, those role players or the role starters, like a guy like, we've talked about Jay Crowder a lot, but, Jay Crowder is going to be a guy that plays a lot of minutes in the playoffs. Now, in the regular season, they're not pushing those guys in the playoffs. Even Lowry's a great example. We weren't looking at Lowry in the regular season all that much, but now in the playoffs, he's going to play a crap ton of minutes for this team. And, he's a guy in the regular season that, you might not see. So a more balanced approach sometimes does work in the NBA playoffs. In the regular season, you can take the risk because we have, I guess let me take a step back. In the regular season, we have way more punt value plays. There's guys sitting out. Okay, there's guys that are
resting. More games too, right? Keep in mind, we have more games. Yeah. That's another great point.
The playoffs, it's going to be very rare to get multiple guys under 4K that are going to be solid plays. So it makes it hard to do the studs and duds in the regular season or in the playoffs. Whereas in the regular season, it's easy because typically on a slate we have a lot of guys as value plays. You just don't see that in the playoffs.
Yeah, another thing to keep in mind too, as we go slate to slate and as we get deeper into series, know which teams play tighter rotations. Know which teams, like if you're in there's a big difference, and you're going to see this on some slates. You might see a game 7 and then see a game 1 on a 2-game slate. That happens sometimes, that they're together on the same exact slate. And clearly you need to be playing more guys in the game 7. Maybe you grab your values from the game 1 because they're going to play more players. They're going to play 10-man rotations. And as the series goes on, you get tighter rotations. And when you get that, obviously those mid-tier guys, they kind of get priced up, and then those studs become more viable, not more viable, but more valuable should probably be the word that I use, because the rotations are tighter. There's more usage going to them. So that's something to watch. We have some more questions in the chat that we can kind of get to here. We'll fire some NBA ones. I've seen it already, and then we'll go to the MLB ones real quick. Let me see here. Where's the one? Oh, Landa asks, what do you guys think of making all the centers power forward eligible on FanDuel? I don't know if you saw that, but Embiid and Jokic had that power forward eligibility this weekend, and I believe they still have it. So what's kind of your thoughts on that there?
The position stuff tilts me so hard on these sites. Maybe just take the positions away if they're going to do this crap. Because first off, they jerk it around back and forth so often. They got guys in the wrong positions. What DraftKings did with LeBron and Luka throughout the season, sometimes they're point guard eligible, small forward, power forward. Maybe just take all the positions away and just play 8 guys or 9 guys, whatever site you're playing on. I can't stand the back and forth. There's no uniformity behind it. It's just so random. Does Embiid or Jokic ever play power forward? Absolutely not. And I think the reason they do this is for ease of making lineups, so people can easily make more lineups and then the contests end up filling. I just don't like it just because they keep jerking it all over the place, making changes. Nothing seems to make sense to me. I think it's stupid. Either make it so you can just play 8 or 9 guys, or each guy has one position and just roll with it.
Yep. No, I think you bring up great points there, Hoop. And the position stuff. Here's another thing I look at, Precious. I don't know what they're going to do with their lineup, if they're going to go Precious. And someone's asking in the chat what we think of him. That's why I kind of started looking at it. Precious is 4-3, Birch is 3-2, and Boucher's 4-4. If you do think center's a little valuable today, putting Boucher at 4-4 over a Precious, even if he's off the bench, I don't hate the idea, but it could come with way less minutes. That's definitely the risk you run with it. But one of those guys also could get into foul trouble quick, and Boucher gets more run. And let's say the game gets ugly, which I do think the Sixers team might destroy this Raptors team pretty good today. And if that's the case, maybe Boucher gets some really good fourth quarter run that could be of value, because sometimes in the game 2s, what teams do, especially if they're the underdog team, they just say, okay, we've already lost this game. We weren't even expected to win this one. Let's rally the troops and kind of pull our guys early and play in game 3 and give a full go in that one at home, which I think you can see sometimes. Hoop, what's some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes some sense. The main thing when you're trying to, build lineups and factor in where you're going to put guys, in positions, say DraftKings, where, they have multiple positions, they have utility, they have forward, they have guard. It gets to the point where you are just playing your top guys, like no matter what of position. I know you and I have had this conversation a lot where, positions don't matter versus positions do matter. Well, on certain sites it does, and certain sites it doesn't, I guess is my final take on this, because more times than not, you can end up playing, whoever the hell you want at the position. So like, the example you brought up, it's kind of slate to slate. And the thing is, when you start putting everyone with multiple positions, it just turns into, hey, you can play anyone and you can get your top 8 or 9 guys, whatever it is.
Yeah. It always depends on what you're stuck with and stuff. It's very slate to slate for sure. Yeah, definitely. Someone said that Precious stretches the floor. And I guess the only point I'm bringing up with the Boucher and Precious thing is just I wouldn't be surprised if one of those dudes got into foul trouble too quick. Yeah. And it's just sometimes I think starting lineups is going to be key though. And the Raptors are definitely one of those teams that you just kind of play those starters. So maybe one of the routes today, and this is something I just thought of that I like to do, is maybe if you see 4 or 3 Raptors in the optimal, maybe it's just playing 2, right? Or maybe it's playing the other way. Let's say it's 3 in the optimals. Maybe you go up to 4. Those are slight ways to be different, to be in smart ways that you're still playing those chalk plays that I think is good. Hoop, let's talk a little MLB for the last 10 minutes or so. We had a couple questions already MLB related. If you guys want, fire those away. One of them was, what are you guys doing with the Phillies today? So I'll admit I haven't looked too much at baseball yet, so I'll pull it up now to see. Phillies are definitely a high-powered offense that on almost any slate, I think you could say are a good play. So let's see. They are playing
they're
the Rockies.
in Coors against Chad Kuhl. I mean, they're in the best spot, by far. DraftKings did a pretty good job of getting them priced up. FanDuel, I think, has them all way too cheap. Okay. I mean, they didn't bump them at all for Coors. So that's the situation you're in here tonight. Now, we talk about all the time. I'm not, yes, they're going to be highly owned. Do you fade them? For me personally, what I'm going to say, hell no. But there's different ways. We always talk about different ways that you can get unique with your stacks. If you go in there and say, okay, I'm going to play Harper, Schwarber, Real Muto, Castellanos, I'm playing all these 5 guys. Well, your secondary stack or your one-offs need to be a little bit unique. You can't go ahead and stack the Phillies and then say, I'm going to play, the next 3 highest owned bats on the slate. That doesn't make sense, especially in baseball. So, something that we've always talked about on the Swing for the Fences show, something we've always talked about up to lock, you got to just find a way to be a little bit different if you're going to play the Phillies. And there's a lot of different things you can do, a lot of strategies that we talk about on the shows and in our content and in the Discord as well. But yeah, it's going to be a big talking point because they're clearly the best offense on the slate in the best spot. And it's really not even close. There's the huge gap between 1 and whatever you think the number 2 offense is.
Yeah. What do you think the number 2 offense is? So I was kind of scrolling through and wondering, besides Colorado, right? Obviously Coors is the best game. I was trying to figure out what that was.
I think it'll still end up being the Dodgers. They're at home. I mean, the names in that lineup are just, it looks like an all-star team. So I think anytime there's a question around who's going to be number 2 and it's pretty close and the Dodgers are in that mix, it's probably going to be the Dodgers in terms of ownership.
Yeah. Sometimes and it's the prices too, right? You still get Justin Turner at 3.9. You get some bottom of the order guys for a little cheap that Bellinger, a Lux at a position that you can roster, Will Smith you can put in there. I know he's not cheap at 4.1, but he is you do feel comfortable sometimes plugging in a good catcher, right? In your stack rather than just I'm taking some dude that, I'm just hoping he hits one of his 20 home runs tonight. The prices are not terrible on him. Sometimes the next best stack is whatever team looks like the value stack, but I think that's some good points there. Trying to look at some other ones the Padres against a young pitcher. I like Lodolo, but he is a lefty and some of those righties could definitely mash him a bit. And I could see them gaining some traction. The Astros, they have some decent price tags though. So I don't know if they'll get enough, but should be an overall interesting slate. Don't really see too many other spots to get super excited about. I guess the Pirates are going against the Brewers. The Brewers aren't the best offense though. But they have some okay price tags that maybe you'd bite on that. Any other offenses you think you like, or any pitchers maybe Hoop you want to discuss?
I mean, the weather's the weather's down quite a bit. It's not great weather around, and there are some games that have some question marks, which we will obviously address in our content and in the Discord. So whenever the weather's super cold in a lot of spots, which it is today, you're going to see low totals, which we have on this slate. The Brewers can be a frustrating team, but they're in a pretty good spot against Zach Thompson at home, but very frustrating team to start the year. We talked about the Dodgers. I like the Padres call. Maybe the Athletics as some value options at home here against the Orioles. In terms of pitchers, Sites for the most part did a good job with Clayton Kershaw after coming off that near perfect game where they pulled him, didn't let him finish it, but 10-3 on DK, 11K on FanDuel. That's a good price tag. FanDuel did a good job of getting him up there. If you play Kershaw on FanDuel, you're making some sacrifices. Frankie Montas in a good spot at home. Sean Manaea has been off to do a pretty good start. Luis Garcia gets a matchup against the Angels, likely without Mike Trout after getting hit in the hand yesterday. Shane McClanahan against the Cubs. That game's supposed to be like freezing. I think like 30 some degrees. So good environment, I think, for pitchers. There's a lot of options on the slate. It should be a good baseball slate, and then follow it up 30 minutes after lock here. You got the NBA slate kicking off. On a Monday. I know sometimes over the weekend these things get lost in the shuffle, but today I think there'll be big time interest in MLB and NBA for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, and we got all the sports going on over here. Like it's just one price. USFL 36 is the current code to get 36% off your first payment for monthly, weekly. So be sure to sign up now. And I'll also extend the offer out. I've been extending it on the morning show, and I'm going to put the list together to send over to the lovely, the better half of the Niehouse's Amber. She's going to be getting the gear ready for you guys. But if you sign up now, first time signups, if you sign up the next hour or two and you kind of give me proof, right? You send it to me. I'll get you one piece of gear. I'll hit up Amber. We're going to be giving out some gear. I heard you are the one that also said that we can get some more gear going. You gave the okay, Big T said. So we got more gear coming, and that'll be awesome. So if you sign up now, first timer, I'll definitely get you some gear sent your way. And we'll be doing some more giveaways, it sounds like, for that soon. So can't wait to do all that. Hoop, obviously nice 100K win. Congrats again on that. Give the people some of your final thoughts, and then we'll kind of get on out of here.
Yeah, obviously exciting to hit that big shipper, right out of the gate here, MLB season. But the grind doesn't stop. We're going to continue to bust out the content over here at Run Pure Sports. We'll have the shows. Obviously this show every day, Monday through Friday, off to a great start. We're going to keep this going. Obviously, we can swing for the fences. We'll have the NBA up to lock shows with JSU, Big T, NASCAR shows, MMA shows. So on the show side, got you covered there. Content side, I also have you covered with, I always say, any sport that's listed on DraftKings, we have somebody covering it, and it's all for one price on our site. Like you can literally get every single sport, some sort of content, which, for me, I think it's the best in the industry. On our website, and it's one price. You can use that code USFL36, get you 36% off your first payment on a monthly or a weekly package, and kind of get into new sports. Like I never watched UFC or MMA ever before we started this at Run Pure Sports. Title's playbook is absolutely phenomenal. I started reading through it. I was like, I'm going to give this a whirl. And now it's like one of my favorite sports for DFS purposes. The sweat's great. People covering tennis, NASCAR. I mean, absolutely everything. Just a fun environment, like a community environment. The Discord is popping, and I always say, like, in that Discord, if you want to talk sports at 3:30 in the morning East Coast time, there's somebody in there that will be chatting with you. So just so many benefits being a member over here at Run Pure Sports, and we're going to continue to build on the product and improve it like we've done for the last 2 years.
Yep. Definitely want to keep doing that. Hoop, also I don't normally play every sport, right? I don't think you don't play every sport, but I dabbled with some tennis last night. I looked at some of spread stuff. I talked to someone else who knows some tennis, and already got like a fun little spike going on right now. Pretty good team so far. So I mean, it's fun to do. There's 10K up top. I said, let's throw a couple bullets in, have a good time, see how it goes. That's the benefit of Run Pure Sports. You got the Discord chat as well, to be able to talk to subscribers about it all. And we have so much content. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to check it all out. I'll go through kind of some of the schedule for the next couple of days. Like I said, 4:45 MLB Swing for the Fences show. Be sure to check that out. Then 6:30, we have the NBA Final Countdown with Big T, JSUK Falcon, that's on the premium side. I'm sure they'll talk some baseball too. I'm sure they'll be building those lineups, getting that all ready. Then tomorrow, I got the morning show at 11 a.m. It's Monday through Friday. I'm going to have on the man and AP. So we're going to talk some NBA. We're going to talk about that $1 million win from him.
And he's still crushing too. He hit like 20K the other night. He hit 9K, 10K last night. I mean, the guy's on an absolute heater.
Yeah, so we're going to have him on to talk about that $1 million lineup. He shipped in Showdown the other day, too, for 9K. And we're going to talk some basketball. So we're going to mainly, I think, talk playoff basketball tomorrow after we review his lineup, me, AP, and him. We'll talk about the 3-game slate. So you'll be getting that tomorrow. MLB Swing for the Fences show, 4:45. So that'll be tomorrow as well. Then you'll have the final countdown again, I believe at 6:30, basically an hour before whenever the NBA lock time is. They'll be talking that. And then you have the Strokes Gain show with Snyder, AP, and Hoop. Then on Wednesday, you're going to have the SaberSim office hours at 1 p.m. MLB Swing for the Fences. Then 6 p.m., you'll have the NBA Final Countdown with the usual crew doing that. Then you'll have the Pin Seeker show with Tambo, Uncle T, and Big T. I mean, then we'll roll in the next day. We're going to roll into some PGA Showdown like we always do. We'll have the morning show again. We're going to have it all. And also this week, Wednesday, Thursday, DC will be on with me again, and we'll be talking the MLB early slates on Wednesday and Thursday. And we're just going to have it all at Run For Your Sports. So if you have not subscribed to this channel, subscribe now. That way you get notified when we go live so you can check out all the content. Also, like the video. That helps us out. So we appreciate that. And yeah, Hoop, did I miss anything else? I mean, we got it all going on. MMA this weekend. I mean, it's just going to be a jam-packed sports week.
Never stops. It keeps continuing, and it appears that our members continue to get to the top of the leaderboards. And the number one, in terms of times getting to the top of the leaderboard recently is the man, and he's going to be on tomorrow. I'm definitely excited to tune into that one. I mean, that guy is on an absolute heater and just crushing, a guy that's very active in our Discord. Not to go on too long about all this stuff, but not only do you get access to our coordinators in the Discord, we have like some of the sharpest members that are in there nonstop, like talking strategy. So you get all our coordinators and then the members who are in a lot of cases just as sharp as the coordinators. So it's just a great spot to be.
Yep. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait for that. Someone's asking for me a play of the day. I don't want to give anything out yet. It's still too early for that. I haven't dove too deep enough to be able to do it. Maybe in the Discord, I can hook you up with that. Hoop will give his play of the day on the MLB show at 4:45. So be sure to tune into that. But that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. For me, Mangone, and Hoop, we will see you guys later.